My trainer was brave, courageous, and self-determined. He was very young and aged almost at 13 or 14. He was very kind to us all, and he was interested in novels with mostly fantasy genres. I remember how he used to entertain me and his other Pokemon with the magic tricks that he did. I thought, how cool would it be to be a magician? Or what kind of Pokemon is a part wizard? If so, that would be the type he would enjoy. But for some reason, he liked me out of all Pokemon he had. I'm not a starter. I'm just a wild Squirtle. I'm different from the other water types and, well, Pokemon in general. I seem to be interested in the conformity seen around human life. Maybe that's why he liked me. I used to imitate him sometimes, teaching my partners how to attack, learning how to feed myself, and some things Pokemon can't do that human beings can. My trainer's name is Juno Bartholomew. That's the name he gave me. Juno Bartholomew Jr. For some reason, I liked Junior better than the first and last name. I cherished the friendship of my new trainer and best friends, but there was something that influenced us sincerely. It was around 8 p.m., and we were heading home. Our trainer was challenged for a Pokemon battle when we walked through the woods. He agreed to fight, and I was the first to respond. I remember how the opponent looked. He was older than my trainer by approximately 10 years. He was holding something in one of his clenched fists of his crossed arms. His smile was obnoxious, and his expression seemed self-absorbed. But I didn't want to focus on him. I paid attention to the Pokemon I was battling. It was a Charizard. I never thought about how big they were compared to me. He had the same expression as his trainer, but it seemed fierce and violent. My first attack was Water Gun, but it wasn't very effective against the Charizard. That's when the Charizard burned me, nearly knocking me out. My trainer intervened to try to help me, but he was burned by the Charizard too. That was enough to knock him down to the ground, but not enough to kill him. His challenger came by with a knife he held in his hand and began to stab him. He repeated the process as I weakly tried to escape, but was caught by the Charizard. He picked me up and threw me yards away from where we are now. While I flew, I hid in my shell, bracing for impact. Soon, soon I got the wind knocked out of me. I gained consciousness and peeked my head out of my shell. I saw a large orange glow with smoke visible in the night sky. I remember how scared I was to go back there. What if that brutal trainer was still there? I heard police, ambulance, and firefighter sirens coming downtown. They got louder as they approached my direction. I slowly walked by to the big fire I see out in the woods. When I arrived, I could tell what was burning in the flame. Juno. I put out the fire with my water gun attack, after which I took a brief pause and said to myself, "This isn't Juno. This isn't Juno. This isn't Juno." His skin was charred and blood mixing with the burnt grass. The clothes he wore weren't fully ashy remains. I could tell what colors they were and remember not too long ago Juno was wearing this. I also come across a scarf. It's purple with yellow stripes, soaked in water and blood, but I couldn't tell if it was burned or not. I held on to it tight, getting my hands bloody. I embraced it while sobbing. Juno always told me how dangerous fire types could be. I wish I never doubted what he said about it. It's true. I can no I can no longer trust a fire type for as long as I live. It is nearly 10 o'clock, the time where I usually go to sleep. I tried to trudge my way back home, grief haunting me as I walked, but I stopped. I was lost, hungry, and heartbroken. I only had Juno's scarf. That was it. I could still feel the injuries from that last battle. I left the site where Juno was murdered, wearing a scarf. My shell against a tree, sitting down, defeated by grief. It was clear I was unable to move on without my friends, either kidnapped or killed by that mass-murdering trainer and his Pokemon. I look up at the sky, pondering an alternate ending from that experience. I wish that fall killed me so that I could see Juno and my friends again. If I tried killing myself, was it worth it? Am I too much of a baby to move on without someone I love? After crying for 10 minutes, I hear a voice asking, "What happened?" I hid in my shell immediately, still feeling pain from earlier. Then I hear the sounds of a Pokeball. I guess this means I have a new trainer. I got out of the Pokeball, feeling healed. I see some other Pokemon, some smiling, standing in front of me. When I hear someone say hello, I turn my head around, wondering who said it. My vision was still a blur since that fight, and all I could see were faint figures of new Pokemon. My trainer gave me a small pair of glasses that were conveniently my size. Suddenly, I could see much more clear. "Well, you guys have fun," the kid said, walking away. After I watched him leave, I turned back around to see the new Pokemon. From left to right, I see a Pancham, a Tepig, a Munchlax, a Riolu, and a shiny Bulbasaur. "Hello?" I said to them nervously. "How's it going, new kid?" the Munchlax says to me. "My name is Ethan. What's yours?" "Junior?" "Pleased to meet you, Junior." The Munchlax wraps an arm around me. "That's Petey." "Hey, says the Pancham. The Pancham looked apathetic when he first saw me. He had a bandage on his cheek, with a bruise that looks like it's still under the process of healing. "That's Hamilton," Ethan continues. The Tepig tilted his head with his eyes closed. "That's Sean." The Riley bowed. "And that's Diego." "Hola," said the shiny Bulbasaur in Spanish. Hello." "So, we heard you've been attacked," Ethan said. "We're really sorry about your trainer." It's okay," I told him. "You must be so famished." "Don't worry, I'll get you a snack," Diego said, running away in excitement. After being fed, our trainer told us that it was time for us to get some rest. When I walked into the bedroom, there were small beds, each with the names of other Pokemon. None of those had my name. When everyone crawled into their bed, I just hid in my shell. "Oh, Junior," Ethan said. My head came back out of the shell. Um, well, For a while the Munchlax looked around a room, stammering. Then I heard Diego chime in. "Here, there's plenty of room in my bed." I slowly walked towards his bed, lifting the blankets. Before I ask him anything, he says, "It's okay, I don't snore. Mi cama es tu cama." He said, "My bed's your bed," Sean said. "Ha, gay boy," Petey said with a fake cough. I turned my head around looking concerned. "What?" he asked. Diego's vine tapped me on the shoulder. "Don't worry about him, Junior. He's a bit loco," he told me. I gave a slight smile and climbed in the bed. I was expecting a prank or a form of abuse as soon as I got in the bed, but oddly enough it was softer than I thought. "Nighty night, Junior," Diego said, patting my head with another vine, followed by a kiss. "Oh, sorry. Too much?" No, you're good," I replied. As far as I know, nobody else saw or heard what happened. But I could not relax. I was waiting for an inevitable insult or harm. Not because of Diego's motherly love behavior, but what I've been through lately. I have been a wild almost my life. But being a companion to a trainer, or two trainers in this case, I do not expect to make more friends. I seem to be different from other Pokemon since I became more interested in the life of human beings than the life of Pokemon. I loved fantasy related novels like my old trainer, but overall, I seem to be the only Pokemon he loved that loved it as much as him. Try not to think about it too much, but I slowly fell into a deep sleep in the satisfying comfort from Diego's bed. Over the years, I have gotten along with the rest of my friends. Thankfully, my new trainer was aware of the mass murdering trainer and his Pokemon. We would occasionally go outside, but not too far, and we always stayed alert for the said trainer. Me, Hamilton, and Ethan are the only ones who evolved. Hamilton was a Pig Knight, and Ethan was a Snorlax. I expected Ethan to be the casual, fat, and lazy giant Pokemon, sleeping the day away. Turns out he is still awake and sleeps at the average time. Seeing Hamilton's evolved form was almost as if I met a different person. Unlike the last few years, he seems to be interested in the battles we get involved with and started to brag about being stronger than everyone. He even ranted about wanting to fight the murderous trainer. Petey, Sean, and Diego are the only ones at their first evolution stage. Their personalities also remain the same, but somehow they started to get interested in clothing. Ethan too, but Hamilton not so much. Ethan and Diego say they wanted to know what it felt like to wear clothing since I had a scarf and glasses. Meanwhile, Petey and Sean say that it has nothing to do with me. Ethan told me that he had been practicing magic tricks. I usually see him using cards and nothing else. One day he showed our trainer and blew his mind. I remember he managed to pull a card into his phone without even moving. Petey is the only one who keeps saying Ethan's magic tricks are all fake, but Diego and I think he's a wizard. Sean and Hamilton acknowledged the purpose of magic tricks and never argued about it being real or fake. As for me, I became interested in making comics, and my trainer began to notice that I was learning how to draw. He would bring home some comics with superheroes, educational humor, or some from the newspaper. One day, he showed me where he gets them all. He showed me that he works at a comic book store. Walking through the front doors was like walking through heaven. There were so many comic books I wanted to pick, but I was only allowed to choose one. It's my birthday, and the day where I evolved into a war turtle. That was the best birthday present of my life. It turns out the trainer and his Pokemon responsible for the death of Juno started a conflict. I thought for sure they would have been punished, but it turns out their bloodlust is causing an epidemic for vengeance. Most of the trainers are starting to fight against the serial murderer. This civil war is not your average Pokemon battle. Use the moves you learn, and you cannot forget any of them. Nobody takes turns attacking, and the trainers do not tell you how to attack. The murderous trainer has a group of all fire-type Pokemon, some fully evolved. The remaining trainers do not have much water-type Pokemon. Because of this, they're drafting neutral trainers and the water-type Pokemon they have. My trainer is the youngest with the water-type Pokemon here in town. Since the last week of the war's existence, he was never drafted into this war. I am worried about how the other water types are doing in the war. From what I've heard, if you surrender, the remaining Pokemon you have is taken by the rival. If you have no remaining Pokemon, the opponent will kill you. Then again, this was from the words of Ethan and Petey, the only two who are the most immature. I try not to think about it too much, since I fear they might draft my trainer and me. This war has started some discriminatory moments in town. Since the rival had a group of fire-type Pokemon, nobody knew if any trainer with a fire-type Pokemon was an enemy or a friend. They are either demandingly told to join the war and work for the rival, or forced to give up the fire-type. You were not treated the same way, even if you were part fire-type. They were either left alone to die, or hide in a unique place away from home. Hamilton showed fear when he heard the news. For a brave pig knight, I have never seen anyone cry and worry. Almost every day he locks himself in our trainer's Pokeball, refusing to come out. Diego was afraid of what happens to the grass-type Pokemon. As far as we know, there are no laws about the grass. If anything, Rex will be easily intimidated by the fire-type, and will be an easy target for murder. Diego's the youngest of our group, and he is vulnerable to the harsh reality. I read a comic book while my trainer was at his shop, organizing the shelves. He came up to me and asked if I was finished reading. I gave it to him, saying, "Lord!" While I looked for other comic books to read, I heard a voice from outside of the store.
"There it is, Hunter,"
said the voice.
"I want that one."
"Chase, what are you doing? Get back here!" said another voice. The door opened, and a pudgy Charmander ran in the store, picking up the comic I'd just finished reading.
"This one! I want this one, Hunter!"
said the Charmander. The Charmeleon followed him and said, "Too bad. There's only one copy. We're not allowed here anyway. Just put it down before somebody—" "What are you doing here?" I asked them. Once I approached the Charmander and Charmeleon, they had timid looks on their faces. My trainer stepped forward to see what was going on. "Sorry, sir. It's just my brother," the Charmeleon said. "He really likes the comic book and he's excited to read the final issue."
"Char, Char!"
the chubby Charmander replied.
"Please, oh please!"
The Charmander's eyes were beginning to tear up as he whimpered. Both of them were fire types, and I did not want to social with them. Still, I have known Hamilton for a couple of years, and now I want him to come out of the Pokeball so we could talk about it. I also looked at the sign that said, "Sorry, trainers, no fire-type Pokemon allowed," capitalized and written in red. I felt so guilty. This is what being a fire-type is like at a time like this. My trainer looked at them and said, "Sorry guys, but this sign strictly prohibits fire types and trainers with fire type Pokemon."
"But
The Charmander whimpered as the Charmeleon took the comic book away and gave it to me. "Sorry, Chase, but this is what it's like for the fire types now," he said.
Hunter."
When the Charmander started crying, I turned back around. My trainer's boss came and yelled, "I hear a fire type's cry." He walked toward the exit and saw me, my trainer, and the Charmeleon and Charmander. He stared at my trainer with an intimidating look. "What the hell is all of this?" he said. "I hope to God you and your water-type pet are gonna take these people out." "Sir, I was just," my trainer said before being cut off by my boss. Ah. You're only here to stack the books, while your Pokemon is here for security. You, finish the job." I have never met my trainer's boss. If this is how he acts to his employees and customers who aren't allowed, then I am not tolerating that. Neither should my trainer. I gave the comic book to the chubby Charmander and said, "Chase and Hunter?" Both of them tremble in fear.
Yes.
Chase said while crying. "This comic book is yours to keep. Forever." I smiled at them as Hunter and Chase gasped.
Y- you mean
Chase looked at Hunter as he smiled at him. "Happy V-Day, little brother," he said. My trainer started to smile as his boss's jaw was wide open and his eyes widened with horror. Chase and Hunter left the building as my trainer and his boss looked at each other with opposite reactions. "Kid, you and I need to talk." "No," my trainer said. "Let me speed this up." My trainer walked back to his workstation, grabbed his belongings, and smashed his name tag against the ground. I hopped on his shoulders as he finally said to his boss, "I quit." "Dorno!" I shouted, before spraying water at his face, which knocked him out. As my trainer and I walked home on this cloudy afternoon, he sighed with disappointment. It was nice breaking my back for about 3 weeks, but it wasn't as therapeutic as this chiropractic situation. Still, it's gonna be hard to find a new job that doesn't discriminate between the fire types. "Water turtle," I sighed. "Wait, shh! Do you hear that?" I hear the sounds of a Charmander and a Charmeleon coming from the nearby forest. I recognize their voices. Chase and Hunter. They both are reading the comic I gave them, and they stop once they see us. "Hey guys, you must be wild," my trainer said. "But not for long, eh?" They both gasped with awe as my trainer pulled out his Pokeball. At last, Chase and Hunter finally have a home. I am happy for them, but I'm still mad at what happened at my trainer's former job. I never heard people yelling discriminatory phrases to the fire-type Pokemon, and I never want to listen to it again. Now, hearing about the Civil War does not scare me. It makes me angry and motivates me in actually joining the war. I told everyone about me wanting to enter the war, and they took it as a joke. I proved my friends wrong when my trainer allowed me to fight. Since he was younger, the general could not allow him to enter the war. However, he had to determine if I was fit enough to enter the war. That meant I had to go through some training. My training did not go well. In battle, I would have died taking a first step on the battlefield. The general was not happy with me, so he sent me home. Before I left the building, another water type who was training broke a leg. I rushed back in and treated him. My trainer's mother knows a lot about healing Pokemon, and I learned everything she knows in case my friends or I get injured. The general decided to keep me, but just as the medic. In a way, I am relieved that I do not have to fight, but my hate for the fire type side still motivates me to kill. I let it all slide as I get ready to move to the campground. I waved goodbye to my friends, smiling, until I saw Chase crying, hugging Hunter. I made it to the military base. I was expecting it to look ominous, but it is an old gym. Turns out Pokemon battles are cancelled due to the war. They might as well ban Pokemon battling if this war gets worse. I take a deep breath, acknowledging I will risk my life and see brutal casualties in KIAs. My teammates were all water-type Pokemon, as expected. Some of them looked younger, while others looked older. Judging by their expressions and behavior, it was a mix of kindness and pugnacious nonpartisanship. Some looked like starters, but were wild, except for one. The said starter Pokemon was Hiro Ame. He is a Sobble, and I can tell he is not ready for war. I'm not sure if all Sobbles act this timid, but I think he may have camouflaged himself in every battle and surprisingly lived. Something tells me his plan would backfire. If that were the case, I would at least try to help him. His sad face makes me feel worried. There is Wyatt, a Vaporeon. He is one of the two soldiers helping our general strategize during each battle. besides Neptune. Neptune is an Empoleon, and unlike Wyatt, he seems as strict as the soldier. However, Wyatt seems less austere and more of a hard thinker. I can assume that both of them will spend most of their time with the general at the foxhole. Of the soldiers that look like they're ready to fight, there is Diana, a Brienne, Thomas, a Frogadier, and Marshall, a marsh top. There is a duo that gives me second thoughts. Frederick was surprised to see the first female show up for the war, and I have heard that he wants to marry Diana when this is over. Diana seems to be pleasing to all of us, especially Frederick. I hope their dream of being together after the war comes true. There is a Psyduck, Buzel, and a Croconaw, who all seem like a stereotypical immature teenager. Their names are Kenny, Eli, and Charlie respectively, and they had to be around my age. There is a lot of horseplay going around at pre-combat, and neither of these soldiers are taking the event seriously. I feel like I am in a locker room with my teammates before a sports game, and some of them are rejoicing on wanting to win, bullying each other in the process. "You the medic?" asked Eli. Yeah," I answered. "Anybody injured as of now?" "Probably. This guy won't get his huge jaws off my arm," Kenny replied. "Also, why are you in this war if you support the fire types?" "Wait, what?" "I think my trainer's good deed must have made the news." "Well, good luck, pacifist," Charlie mocked. The general arrived with Wyatt and Neptune. They told us to get ready for the battle tomorrow at dawn. I was told to stay near the battlefield, but I could not attack. I had to listen out for my friends who screamed, "Medic!" The soldiers immediately started exercising and prepared for the battle, while others screwed around as usual. I was trying to warn the procrastinators, but I decided to wait for the common sense to hit their thick skulls. Worst part about this place is that the general forced us to share beds or sleep on the floor. The floor was dirty, and I think rats were infesting the trench as well. Perfect for Kenneth, Charlie, and Eli to all compete in a rat-killing game. Of course, I share Charlie's bed, and Kenneth and Eli share another, close by us. Later that night, I was praying that there would not be any casualties. "Oi, oi, guys, it's me, Junior. Tomorrow morning is our first battle. I'll be nearby in case my teammates get injured. And about my teammates, some are friendly, some are not. I have high doubts that this will be our first victory in battle. Still, I have doubts that I'll survive the war. Don't be afraid, I'll always be around. I love you guys. I'll be back. Take care." I write these notes to home to tell my trainer and friends back home about my experience at war at the moment. I promised Wyatt, Neptune, and General that they would send a note to them if I die. Then Wyatt told me something about medics in this war. They are not the first to die in battles if they are careful with themselves and not let the horrors of war overwhelm them. The only brutal image I have ever seen was of my first trainer, who was murdered when I was a squirtle. I calm myself down and try not to let the memory of a lost loved one try to overwhelm me. Tomorrow might be a rough day. By morning, the fire types attacked us by surprise. We all rushed outside to see thousands of Pokemon unleashing fire against our side of the battlefield. Kenny shrugged it off with a smile, saying he can take them all out single-handedly. Of course, he said it all with a shaky voice. Getting out on the field, he suddenly paused as he could not find the rivals. Suddenly, we were all blinded by a big flash and deafened by a loud explosion. After that, we could not find Kenny anymore, until he landed back in our trench without a leg. We tried to fight back, but some of us suffered burns and could do nothing but duck and cover. Eli found Kenny's legs and helped me carry him to my room. The remaining soldiers had to stay and fight, while I tried to recover Kenny. However, Charlie stayed, biting his nails. Kenny, having no leg, still had a pulse, until nearly a minute later, there was a flat line. Charlie was no longer outside my door. "Come on, you guys," General Johnson yelled. "It's just fire. You guys can extinguish it." To be fair, there were mines everywhere near us, Fred said while having a large block of ice on his back. "My face nearly melted off," yelled Eli. "Who cares? We're not losing this battle." "General, we did win most of the battles in this war," Wyatt said. "Yeah, this could be our first loss. Can't be that bad," Diana said. "Well, This is nice to know that my side doesn't suck as much as I thought. Okay, but in the next battle, you all better fight harder, yelled the general. Sir, yes, sir, we all replied. I go to treat Charlie's wounds, but then he asks, Hey, where's Kenny? He. I start to hesitate. You saw what happened to him, dude, Eli yelled back. He literally flew without a leg. This isn't funny. What happened to him? Charlie shouted, sounding concerned. It's true, he lost a leg being blown up, I told him. But but you can't do something? He's already dead, yelled Neptune. He can't! Charlie's voice began to crack. Kenny said he could. Kenny thought wrong, I shouted. You see, this is exactly what I was talking to you three about. Not taking this whole thing seriously, and look where that got Kenny. Sorry, Charlie whined. Oh, really? Well, too bad. This war's only gonna get worse if you. I slowly stopped yelling as I looked at Charlie covering his face, silently crying. Charlie? He got up and walked to the another side of the room. I followed him there. It's my fault, he sobbed. I shouldn't have pushed him into. He, he was. He was just. Look, Charlie, don't blame yourself, I said. Charlie continued to cry as he collapsed to the ground. Kenny's gonna be okay, lad, I tell him. He'll be rooting for us. Can we still do it? With just one man down? Of course we can, Charlie. Just remember, do it for Kenny. When I first met Charlie, I did not like him at all, nor Kenny. But seeing how Kenny went out changed my perspective of him and Charlie. With his crude behavior, I knew his death would be inevitable. But there was something that made me rethink his personality. As determined as he was to fight, this particular battle was too much for him. I am sensing that the rivals are getting stronger. Wyatt, Neptune, and General Johnson are all trying to figure out how to stop this warfare. The general told us that we're moving to a new gym for another battle. He said Wyatt and Neptune had given him another strategy, and there was no time to lose. We had to sneak out immediately. The winners of a battle get to keep the territory, including the gym of the losing side. Soldiers who lost must relocate and strategize how to push the winners back. We walked over to a new underground area, carrying our belongings, ammunition, and first aid. As we walked, General Johnson explained our strategy. Listen up. The soldiers in this next gym consist of mostly snipers. They are hidden somewhere where the enemies cannot see. You guys need to distract them. But how? Charlie asked. You'll find out, Neptune replied. You will all have to figure out how you will distract the fire types, Wyatt said. Already, Frederick, Diana, and Thomas are whispering ideas to each other, while Hero, Eli, Charlie, and I remain silent. We finally made our way to our new trench and got comfortable. Johnson, Wyatt, and Neptune left the soldiers and me alone to recover. However, knowing our general so far, this was not his idea. Finally, Eli said something to me. Hey, medic, is Charlie alright? I paused for a moment to look at him. He was frowning, sighing heavily. Sure as hell hope so, I finally said. Maybe I was too hard on him. No, it's okay, we get it. We should have listened to you. Kenny always made us less, well, fearsome of war. Less fearsome? Yeah. I mean, if you look at Hero, he's been camouflaged in every battle and no one knows how many he has killed. So, we always assumed he was some pansy. Freddie, Diana, Tom, Marshall, and Wyatt all seem like they know what they're risking their lives for. But I think Neptune and General Johnson are just too strict. And I wasn't the only one who felt like a baby about it. Hero, of course, Charlie, and Kenny. We never had a moment to comprehend war. Kenny must have taken advantage of this and made it seem like it's no big deal, like we would just faint and not die. When Eli finished his sentence, I could hear a voice crack. I turned around to see him trying not to cry. I hugged him and shushed him, as if he was my little brother. Suddenly, I remember Hunter and Chase when I left. And seeing how Kenny died made us forget the hope he's given us. Come on, Eli. You know, I miss him. He'll be okay. Suddenly, I get hugged by someone else. I look over to my left and right and saw nobody. Then I looked over to the right again and saw a hero blending out with the walls of the trench. I'm sorry you lost your friend, Eli, he said. You want to talk about it with Charlie and Dr. Bartholomew? Hero's right. We should give you and Charlie all the help you need. Also, feel free to call me Junior. We walk over to Charlie holding a picture of him and Kenny smiling together, wearing different clothing. They're not in their soldier uniforms, and it was dated years ago. The photograph has burns on the edges and small droplets of blood from Kenny's body. We all look at the picture and see a tear dropping on the photo next to the bloodstain. Kenny and I met long before this war, Charlie said weakly. We both have the same trainer. I was his starter. Kenny was the recent one he caught. He's too young to fight, but Kenny insisted that we would go. He said, "It'll be a piece of cake." And then I said, "You had me at cake." He started to laugh as we chuckled. Hero smiled. I'll be honest, General Johnson scared me. I've never been yelled at like that before. Then Kenny started making fun of him behind his back. Something about Kenny, he was just a goofball. He was a prankster too, Eli said. Remember the time we faked our deaths and made Hero call for Neptune? You guys! We all laughed as Hero camouflaged himself and presumably walked away. That's not all we did, though, Charlie continued. I could see him smiling. Remember when you accidentally pulled the trigger on one of the soldiers' guns? Oh, yeah, and Kenny just fell down after that? Dear Arceus, he scared me. General Johnson was not happy with that, Charlie chuckled. This Kenny chap sounds like a fun Psyduck, I said. I wish I could have got to know more about him. Well, Junior, you do now, Eli said. Hey, Charlie, I'm really sorry for shouting at you like that. I never knew how much Kenny meant to you. It's okay, Charlie said. And you know what, Charlie? I don't think Kenny is really gone. What do you mean? Kenny's always here. I pointed to his heart. He's in there somewhere, telling you, win this for me, for everyone else at home. He doesn't want you to be alone. Neither do we. Yeah, Charlie. Kenny's gonna be okay. Eli patted his back. I don't think he wanted to leave like this, but I know he always wanted you to be happy. Charlie started smiling. He folded the picture and put it in his pocket. I'll do this. For Kenny. And our family, he said. That's the spirit. Good Crocodile, Eli said. Alright, I'm gonna see if Hero is looking around or something. He walked off, leaving me and Charlie alone. When he left, Charlie hugged me tight and cried. Thank you. I started to smile. Thank you so much for everything. I hugged him too, and I began to cry. I looked behind Charlie to see Hero once again become visible, and I smiled at him. He wiped the tears off his eyes and camouflaged himself with a smile. Hello again, everyone from home. It's me, Junior. My first battle, and we sadly have one KIA, and a few injured. We lost a soldier named Kenneth Walter. He was a Psyduck and had a great sense of humor. We were all grieving when he succumbed to his injuries. I spoke with his friends, Charles and Elias. Charles and Kenneth both were Pokemon of the same trainer. They are not old enough to fight in the war, but Kenneth wanted to get involved. I will mention all the funny things Kenny did before I arrived, but I fear that General will read this before sending it to you all. I told Charles that Kenny is still with us all and he wants us to win this war. Together, this war will end at a faster pace. So, pray for us, and of course, Kenny. Love you guys. To witness a KIA or gruesome injury was inevitable. What I thought was not inevitable was treating emotional pain. I learned that Kenny was not just an immature Psyduck. He was intimidated by war, and he did not want us to feel the same way, especially Charlie. Now, Charlie knows Kenny's protection would never die. For the rest of the war, Kenny is making us laugh and telling us to be brave. If we were going to die, we would at least die for honor, hope, and peace. And someday, we would see Kenny again. The soldiers all needed a moment to recover after the surprise attack. Our first loss of a battle and a soldier on the same day. Neptune and General Johnson both had a stern yet disappointed look on their faces, while Wyatt was full of grief, similar to Eli and Charlie. All the trainers were ordered to retreat just after losing Kenny, and Thomas, Marshall, and Frederick having second-degree burns. If we were at a Pokemon Center, those wounded would have been healed quicker. But to these soldiers, Seemed I was their only hope. After writing my second letter home, Wyatt came in to give us all some treats and water. I tell Wyatt to send the letter to my trainer. When I looked at him, he was still looking sad. If anything, I think he, Neptune, and the General need more time to themselves if they have this similar expression in privacy. For a short time, Wyatt was silent, and he looked at the other soldiers slowly eating with a certain side still on their minds. Finally, he guided me to an area of the trench that was private, so that the soldiers and the generals do not overhear. "Let me guess what your letter is about," he finally said. "It was about Walter, correct?" "Yes," I replied. There was no response from Wyatt. Yes, sir," I quickly said after. "I'm sorry if I'm invading your personal space, but I read your first letter. Now that you've finished writing after our retreat, are you sure you want to do this? Why are you reading my letters? What's this about?" "I'm sorry, Juno. It's just that I never knew much about you. Also, don't tell anyone I said this, but I think the General and Neptune are very skeptical of you." I sighed. "All I know is that I could not handle the basic training of boot camp," I said. "I know. Johnson told me that. He also assumes that you don't want to kill any fire types." That did not surprise me, but I'm wondering how the General knows. "Huh? For all I know, Neptune thinks you wanted to become a medic, so you would not kill a fire-type Pokemon. General Johnson thinks you failed the training on purpose and waited for the right moment to demonstrate the only skill you have." I thought about what Wyatt said for a while. I knew that the General did not like me when we first met. I knew he would reject me as a soldier, but I never knew how doubtful he was of me. I feel that I am at risk of being sent home, but if I go, will these soldiers and Pokemon have hope? I calmed down for a moment to respond to Wyatt. "Wyatt, what's wrong, Juno? You can confess." I began to hesitate. "I lost my first trainer from a Charizard and his evil trainer. They're in that cult that transformed this issue into a war. I promised my trainer that I would avenge him. Ever since I was caught by a new trainer, I was motivated to kill a fire type. Now my current trainer has two fire type Pokemon. They are brothers, Hunter and Chase. I saw them get abused by my trainer's boss at a place he worked in. He quit his job and took Hunter and Chase in. He's too young to enter the war. He's on our side. Chase is a little child, and I want him to be happy as much as his older brother does. And I know you guys just want to fight the fire types, and I stopped to see Wyatt tear up. You, you know, you don't know how relieved I am." He embraced me. "Wyatt, what's going on?" "I never told anyone this, but I'm married to a fire type. When we met when we were both Eevees, and then we changed. She evolved into a Flareon. After hearing about the war, she tried to kill herself, knowing how the fire types are going insane." I kept listening to Wyatt. I grabbed her paw and told her, "I'll stop it all." I guided her to a shelter far from here. Johnson found me in a park while I was hunting for food. He captured me and sent me to war. I couldn't fight as much as them, so I was their lesser general. I also wrote letters, but she never wrote back. And I always feared that General and Neptune would know. That's why I asked him permission to deal with the letters from or to trainers or loved ones. There is no other soldier here who had an acquaintance with any fire-type Pokemon, other than you and me. "Wyatt, I'm glad you told me this. And I'm relieved too," I finally said. "Let's keep this a secret, between you and me." He nodded. As we walked back to the room where the water types socialized, Wyatt told the plan he, Neptune, and General Johnson were concocting. Like they said before, the next soldiers we have are mainly a team of snipers. The battlefield has nests that the enemies could not see. However, we do not know how the enemies will attack this time. We still have to be prepared and try not to lose another soldier. Wyatt recited this plan once we got back with the water types. No one showed sign of any fear, and unlike last time, actually listened. I could tell Kenny was also talking to them while Wyatt spoke, but this time he was serious. I heard a mixture of sentences agreeing to Wyatt after he announced the plan for the next battle. I grabbed a bottle of water and stood up in front of them. "Gentlemen," I raised my bottle up, "Kenny wishes you all the best of luck." They all raised their bottles and we drank in unison. Later that evening, I got my letter back and wrote at the bottom of it, "Thank you, Wyatt." By morning, we came out of the trench and out to the new battlefield. No enemies were approaching. Thomas looked out through binoculars and could not spot any sign of a fire-type Pokemon. or any trainers wearing a fire symbol on their clothing. We marched closer to the assumed enemy lines, getting farther from the trench. "I think this is it, guys," Eli said. "This might be the easiest battle since—" Eli was then hit in the face by a flare. The soldiers gasped as I quickly ran to him. I looked at his face as he was breathing heavily, trying not to cry or scream. Eli has a first-degree burn on the right side of his face. He cannot see from his right eye. I grabbed an ice pack and put it on his face for now. Due to Eli's poor vision, he had to stay in the trench. "Bartholomew, get down there with Eli," Neptune shouted. "What about you guys? You'll get shot by the other snipers," I shouted back. "Look, you guys, it's fine. We can extinguish it. Eli's not man enough to fight." "We can dodge flares, but we can't dodge bullets," Diana yelled. "We'll be easy targets if we don't move faster. Now go!" Flares were showering down on us on the battlefield. They exploded upon landing, which was almost like being near a detonated grenade. The difference was you would have minor injuries, like burns, instead of having a limb blown up, or otherwise killed. The soldiers were trying to dodge every projectile, but as Diana said, bullets were impossible to avoid. We were hoping that they too would injure us and not kill. These flares emitted smoke from the blasts on the ground, which made it hard to see any other side of the battlefront. It was hard to hear for any soldiers calling for me over the gunfire. No one has seen any fire-type Pokemon during this battle, which I hope was the case. Not all of us had fully evolved yet, and we were no match for them. When the smoke cleared, I could barely see my friends. As I walked, I came across a boulder in the middle of the field. I looked through a pair of binoculars and saw my friends coming by. No one was injured or killed yet. We were also getting close to the enemy side. But then, while I was standing on the rock, I was shot under the left kneecap. I felt the bullet trigger my patella reflex, causing my leg to jerk. I fell off the boulder. I fell off the boulder and onto the ground. "I'm hit! War turtle down!" I shouted. I looked at my limp leg, bleeding underneath my kneecap. The bullet made it out the other side and got stuck in the boulder, or I would have gotten lead poisoning. The bleeding wound may have felt ticklish, but the amount of pain on my leg was to the point where I had no feeling in my legs. I tried bandaging my leg, but a flare took me out. I collapsed with a bloody leg and a bruise on my chest. My eyes slowly opened after the last few seconds after being active. I looked around to see flares fired and exploding on the ground. There was no sound. For a while, I was deaf. Suddenly, I hear familiar voices. I heard Wyatt saying, you don't know how relieved I am." Then I hear Charlie. "Well, good luck, pacifist." Then Eli. "Then he's gonna be okay." And after hearing those voices, I hear Charlie again. This time it was me yelling at him after Kenny died. Finally, I hear Chase crying. I hear his brother saying, "Sorry, Chase, but this is what it's like for the fire types now." I could see the soldiers, but I did not react because of my injury. I see Hero screaming and crying for me. Diana and Frederick are yelling too, but I see Charlie is crying with Hero. Finally, I hear the sounds again. "Juno, we're going back! Let's go!" Thomas shouted. I am the only medic, and getting wounded is the worst thing that could happen to this team. I quickly bandaged my wound. I could not run due to the shot in my left leg, so I had to skip on my right leg back to the trench. Thomas helped me back to our foxhole, and we managed to go back with minor injuries. Eli and I are the only two injured from the battle. I was on my bed, groaning, holding my leg. I tried not to touch it for a while, so my wound could heal. While I was on my bed, I saw all the soldiers in the group, along with the general. I could tell that he, out of everyone else in this room, was unhappy. I was supposed to stay half a yard away from all the soldiers until someone called for a medic. I was following them all, not maintaining a distance. Now look where it got me. The general and Neptune both left. It was just me and with Diana, Frederick, Marshall, Wyatt, Thomas, Charlie, and Eli, who was recovering. "Need a treat, Juno?" asked Diana. "What about something to drink?" asked Frederick. "Guys, we should give him space," Wyatt said. "But what about his condition?" asked Marshall. "It's alright," I told him. "It's not serious. It's just a wound on my kneecap." "You sure?" asked Theo. "You were bleeding a lot." "Well, being shot in the kneecap won't entirely kill you." "I think it was serious," Charlie said. "Junior, sorry for asking this, but what did it feel like?" I sighed and groaned at the injury. You know how people kick their legs when they get hit in the knee? No one knew what I was talking about. No? Well, that's a reflex. You can feel yourself kicking based on that reflex. And that shot felt like the doctors taking the tendon out of my knee. Everyone looked sick to their stomachs, and much more concerned for me. They were rooting for me, even though a few picked on me after arriving. I was counting on them after Kenny's death, and now they were counting on me. I felt like I was on the verge of death, but they did not want me to be next. They kept me alive. I should be better in about a few weeks. Just hope that I don't do the same thing in the next battle, I chuckled. Gotcha, Marshall said. General Johnson and Neptune did not communicate to Wyatt, nor any of us. They left us alone. Everyone was free to do what they wanted for the rest of the day. Some read, some exercised, while others played games they smuggled from home. I was on my bed, trying to calm myself down, but Charlie came up to me with my backpack. Here you go, Junior, he said cheerfully. Thanks, Charlie, I said in response. Also, he said on the other side of my bed, can you please teach me everything you know? What? Teach me how to be a medic, so in case we lose you, we could teach ourselves? I don't know. So far, we've lost only 2 battles since I was here. Maybe you guys truly don't need a medic. That's not true. Kenny was always injured, but he took it like a boss. Because, that's Kenny. Then Marshall. He was shot once, and all he did was stay in bed, without a bandage. As for me, I would often get stabbed by shrapnel or other debris from the war, and the general told me that it was not an issue. Clearly, we need someone with knowledge of medicine and such. I feel like I was bad luck to my team, but Charlie relied on me, and so did the others. Credit where it's due. Charlie may be a gullible teenager at times, but he was right that we need someone who knows what they are doing. At this rate, the general may have run out of ideas. Finally, I agreed and told him to get a book out of my backpack. It was a notebook of everything my trainer's mom knows about working out as a nurse at the Pokemon Center, and many more. Charlie seemed to be very focused on this and wanted to share it with everyone else. I told him that he could. He joyfully skipped away with a notebook. Hello, everyone from home. In the second battle, I got shot in the knee and was under excruciating discomfort. The pain made me reminisce about everything since the death of my trainer. I felt like I was going to die, but all the friends I've made kept me alive. Now don't worry about me, I'll be okay. Just in case I won't see you guys again, know that I want Chase to stay happy, and someday we'll meet again. I love you so much. Goodbye. The day after writing this letter, Hunter wrote back, before heading into the next battle. I never knew about this until Wyatt told me. After that, the war was reaching a turning point. We were on to something. We were all immediately woken up to report to the general's room for some unfortunate news. As I woke up, I tried walking again. My leg was still bad, but I was slowly getting used to it. I walked in to see the trainers and the Pokemon shocked around General Johnson, who was on the table bleeding. What? What happened? Hero said, trying to catch his breath. The general's dead, Wyatt shouted. Now what are we gonna do? Asked Charlie. Well, Johnson did say the war won't end until all generals are dead or surrendered, Neptune said. However, he has written some things before his death. What did he say? Asked Thomas. Neptune read a suicide note. I've received a letter from a Charmeleon by the name of Hunter Suta. He appears to know the wounded medic, Juno Bartholomew. Losing a second battle and having a soldier befriending the enemy is appalling, and I see no reason to lead you all. Now, even though I am leaving, I am surrendering to the fire types to end the war. However, Neptune and Wyatt can still choose to fight. Pray that you would not disappoint me, nor that idiot Psyduck, Kenneth Walter. Goodbye, Elisha Johnson. Bartholomew, care to explain? Neptune asked. The trainer's eyes were on me. I stuttered and began to sweat. Look, I didn't mean... It wasn't my fault, I said. Oh, really? Asked Marshall. Then why were you so soft on those disgusting Pokemon? One of them was a child. Oh, boo-hoo. Care for the children. We're at war, Juno. All those fire-type children won't make it out alive on our territory. Something inside Marshall snapped. There had to be a reason why. Was it the experience at war? Was it Eli, Charlie, and Kenny's foolishness? Or was it the ideology about the fire-type Pokemon in this region? Either way, Marshall seemed to be more radical about this terrible civil war, even more so than General Johnson. Marshall, dude, leave Junior alone, Charlie said. What? You're supporting this traitor? Marshall shouted, feeling bewildered. White stepped in. Did you know that his trainer helped two fire-type brothers? His boss at his job wouldn't allow them in the store, but Juno made the fire types welcome in this region, something that most fire type Pokemon who opposed this war never had. Who knows what would happen to them if Junior hadn't done something? He's showing us that they need respect, assistance, and support, Frederick responded. I have not known one Pokemon trainer who has had tender, loving care for a fire type in this period, and clearly the guy responsible for Junior's first trainer's death didn't give any for his Charizard, Wyatt continued. Yeah, they got a point, Charlie said. You just want to see some people suffer. I didn't go to war to do this. Marshall looked around with a disconcerted face. He looked at me, the Pokemon, and the soldiers, who were also aware of the good deed I did. I was right. My good deed did make it on the headlines. He looked at Neptune, who was silent. Though Marshall's sense of the war was more robust than his and Johnson's, Neptune did not support him. No one was on Marshall's side, and no one wanted to be there. You, he slowly said with a whimper, you are all traitors. He looked at me. You son of a bitch. Marshall grabbed a gun from General Johnson that had 2 more bullets. Turns out he expected the remaining generals to follow if they surrendered. Marshall pointed the gun at my face. This is what happens when we encounter a double agent, he said. After apprehension, we killed him on the spot. Marshall, you don't have to do this, Neptune shouted. You shut up, he screamed. Call yourself a general when you support 2 people, Johnson and Junior. Everyone was slowly walking away from me and Marshall, jumping from every sudden movement he made, holding Johnson's gun. I told myself, don't worry, over and over. What's this gonna prove? Asked Hero. What did you say? Marshall asked. Hero didn't reply. Yeah, thought so. For a while, Marshall did not say anything. He stared at me with the gun on my forehead. I finally said, thinking about what it'll prove? Ha ha, very funny, he said sarcastically. Any second I expected Marshall to pull the trigger, but he sighed and took the gun off my head. He started breathing sharply. Look, Marshall, we can work this out. This war isn't about which Pokemon type is or isn't extinct. Then, what's it about, smart guy? He asked, still breathing. It's about stopping the insane trainer who cost the lives of innocent people, Thomas said. And making this region feel like home again, Charlie added. Marshall's breathing intensified. Looked like he was trying not to cry, when I could see some tears falling. Do you think this world's gonna trust the fire types? And you're wrong. Screw you all. This war has gotten nowhere. I would rather not fight at all. I don't care about General Johnson, you guys, Kenny, or myself, or about the goddamn future anymore. You all are sick. We all stayed silent while Marshall kept breathing. He inhaled sharply and put the gun in his mouth, shooting himself. His head jerked up. He then bent his knees trying to reach for the painful area, but collapsed to the ground, groaning loudly. The soldiers gasped and covered their faces. Hero was screaming and losing control of his body. It was all too much for him. Diana and Frederick hugged him while Thomas kept his hand on his mouth after witnessing another suicide. Eli tried calming down a crying Charlie. Like everyone, I am cringing at seeing Marshall removing himself from the face of the earth. He was on the ground, blood mixed with tears, and motionless. Another soldier is gone. Okay, everyone back to the rooms now, Wyatt shouted. While we recovered from yet another traumatic experience, Hero still hasn't. He was twitching and barely speaking. Marshall's words and actions had stuck to his head, and now he got lost in a frightening trance. Wyatt and Neptune told us all to go back out and fight. This time I stood in the trench, waiting for someone to call me. Unlike yesterday, there were fewer flares, but a team of fire-type Pokemon. The only fully evolved Pokemon we have is Wyatt and Neptune, but we were still easy targets. Our soldiers gunned down a few of the fire-type Pokemon and the trainers as well. Our team was outnumbered and on the verge of defeat. Once again, everyone was pushed back as the enemies marched closer. What are you idiots doing? Asked Neptune. There's no way they can invade us. The gunfire was getting louder. Neptune, duck! Shouted Wyatt. Wyatt, you're overreacting. Their aim is bad. Look at you all. You're still alive. Get back out there. That is an order. After yelling, a soldier shot Neptune in the back of the head. He collapsed on the battlefield. I climbed out to treat him in our gym. There was nothing I could do. The bullet killed him instantly. Suddenly I hear a helicopter from outside. It landed near our side, and now came a few soldiers and grass-type Pokemon. Damn it, this is it, you guys! Screamed Eli. A shiny chestnut came out and yelled to us as his team was not firing at us, but at the fire-type team. Guys, where's your general? He screamed. He died! Charlie shouted. Who's your substitute? I am, Wyatt shouted. I was the one who contacted you. You're Wyatt von Aqueous, correct? Wyatt nodded. This chestnut shouted to us all, Not all hope is lost, you guys. Grab what you need, and let's get the hell out of here. While the grass-type team and their soldiers fought back, our team got everything they needed and hopped on the helicopter. However, our trainer steered near the trench to help the grass types. What's going on here? Asked Charlie. You guys are flying with good old pilot Chester Alcatraz, the shiny chestnut said. Are you gonna kill us? Asked Eli. What? No, unless your plan is to kill me, Chester said. Anyway, this is the Firewater War Aero Support. Pokemon of all types come in to assist one of the teams. We know this war is all about fire-type and water-type Pokemon, but what about the rest? That's why I come into play. Where are you taking us? Asked Wyatt. Down to our base. We got food, shelter, and a large team. We're getting close. Landing! We all have a set of emotions running through our heads. Traumatized, ashamed, confused, and hopeful. As the helicopter was landing, we could see the building Chester mentioned. It is an old high school, abandoned before the war. Once we walked in, we heard a voice yelling, It's General Alcatraz! Everyone stood up with their chins up, their feet together, their arms down, and their eyes forward. Gentlemen, we have rescued the water-type team who, as you can tell, are falling apart. They had 3 generals, but now they have only one, who is this Vaporeon. They have lost not only their generals, but their fellow soldiers. Please be nice and take good care of them, and prepare for our next battle. Sir, yes sir, they all shouted in unison. Water team, you're free to do whatever you like. Come by and visit me downstairs in my office if you need anything, Chester said. Oh, Mr. Alcatraz, was it? Wyatt asked. You may call me General Chester, if that's too hard to say. Okay, General Chester. We're still unfamiliar with the space. You see, we're used to being in the gyms and foxholes. Ah, got it. Single file, you guys. I'll show you around. After almost a full hour touring the base, we go into a room for us to relax and get used to this new setup. We were all not entirely distracted from the war. Wyatt went to speak with General Chester. I was checking the others to see if they were injured. Some were fine, others were not, but had treatable conditions. Hero was still in shock from Marshall. I am still incapacitated, and it's because of Marshall. For him to suddenly lash out about superiority, and openly give up his life instead of fighting for it, and all the others, I never got to know Marshall personally. But it seems that it all just happened. Man, Marshall was just crazy, Thomas said. I know, why would he just blow his head off? Frederick replied. Hero whimpered. I felt sick to my stomach at Kenny's death, and the same for Junior's wound, but Marshall is kind of conflicting. Speaking of which, how are you holding up, Junior? I am so utterly confused, I say. I know, this war has turned around so fast. Thank goodness for that, Diana said. It's not just that. It's about Marshall. I never knew much about him. In fact, I don't know why he was acting like that. Yeah, Marshall was really quiet, Eli said. Those were the only words that came out of his mouth since I got here. Well, I kinda saw this coming, Charlie said. Katie and I read his diary once, and we knew he hated fire-type Pokemon, and he drew a Charizard begging for its life before it sinks in the ocean. I could go on, but it's all so strange. I look at Hero, who is slowly recovering from his shock. I feel guilty talking about Marshall while Hero can still picture him dying. I wanted this conversation to end, but I still had questions. Finally, I said, well, I don't think Marshall was any of our concerns. He was in this war to have our type dominant. Well, the rest of you guys are trying to put an end to this war and give the enemy a good image again. They all nodded. I know, I'm here too. Wyatt's the new general and so is Chester. Pray that this war is coming to an end faster. After talking to the soldiers, we all went back and got comfortable with ourselves again. The history behind Marshall is still a mystery, but I would not think about him. Would he even get a respectful burial or be remembered after the war? What about his trainer? Did he agree or disagree? I stopped thinking and looked at my wound. It's still painful, and walking is still hard for me. I take out another piece of paper and start writing another letter. I hope that another confrontation doesn't occur. While I did, Wyatt came into the room. Alright, you guys, we got word that Marshall's trainer had died in the battle, but the rest is okay with the grass types. We won the battle, all thanks to Alcatraz. See, what'd I tell you guys, Diana said. Okay, and the other soldiers are celebrating downstairs. Feel free to come on down. Wow, General Alcatraz is awesome, Charlie exclaimed. Never have this much freedom with Johnson and Neptune. Alcatraz says we're like a big family. If anything, this is something Kenny would have loved. Also, Wyatt, do they have snacks? Yeah, it's... Charlie ran out of the room. Oh boy, somebody's gotta make sure he doesn't get lost. Eli got up and followed him. When the rest of the soldiers went downstairs to party, Wyatt and I were the only ones left in the room. Finally, he says, Okay, Junior, I forgot to mention 2 things. 1, the Medicare wants to see you. Nurse Henrietta Annabelle. I'll take you there. Wyatt guided me to see Nurse Annabelle at her office. She is a miltank with a Red Cross badge, just like the nurses at the Pokemon Center. After she finished filling milk cartons and canteens up with her milk, she looked at me. Ooh boy, you must be that wounded medic I heard about, she said with a slight Southern American accent. Don't you worry, I'm gonna take good care of you. Why, hun, let me place him on the table over there. I am lying on the exam table, seeing the light from the ceiling. Then I can see the miltank. What's your name, sugar? She says. Juno Bartholomew Jr., I say. You may call me Junior if you want. Okay, Junior. I'm gonna remove this badge. How long ago was this on you? Since yesterday. Alrighty then. She takes off my bandage and looks at the bullet wound. She lifts my left leg slowly and carefully. I start wincing, feeling the pain once again. Shh. It's okay, baby. She looked carefully at the wound. Sheesh. You could see daylight from one end. Well, at least it's not lead poisoning, I groaned. Tell me, did you feel your leg trying to kick? A little bit. Yeah, the wound is underneath the kneecap. I see your tendon might be damaged. Think I know just the thing. Nurse Annabelle steadily put my leg back down and let it hang off the side of the table. It still hurts at this position, but I pay attention to what she is doing. Wyatt gave me a slight thumbs up and winked. Nurse Annabelle gave me a cup of milk. Here, hun, drink this, she told me. All of it? I asked. Mm-hmm. How will this help? You'll see. Just drink, Junior. I still felt skeptical of this idea of having new allies and generals, especially from the type I'm weak against. Grass. Then again, Wyatt was someone who contacted them, and I was still in pain. Finally, I drank it all inside. Nurse Annabelle took the cup and told me not to move. Hey Wyatt, want to see something cool? She asked him. What is it? Wyatt slowly approached my leg. Something I call a sped up rate of mitosis. Nurse Annabelle and Wyatt looked at my wound, and it's starting to heal. They no longer see part of the table from the injury, and after that, it disappears. Junior, the bullet hole's gone, Wyatt said. Whoa, what? I slightly smiled. I also look at my chest. The burn is gone. There's one last thing, hun, she told me. Let's see your reflexes. Grabbing a small hammer, Nurse Annabelle moved me closer to the edge of the desk. She tapped on the spot where the wound once was. Without feeling any excruciating pain, I kicked. She repeats the process, and it still works well. There we go. You're good as new, Junior. Thank you so much, Nurse Annabelle, I said. This can help with all wounds, too. I recommend you and your buddies take a canteen of this when you go out to battle. Great. Alright, thank you again. Oh, Eli's gonna need this too, Wyatt said. He's been treating that burn like it was nothing. Well, if he treats the wound like it was nothing, then that ain't good. Give this to him, Wyatt. She throws Wyatt a canteen of milk. Got it. Thank you, ma'am. Oh, and before I go, here you go, Junior. Wyatt gave me the letter that General Johnson had before he took his own life. After he left, Nurse Annabelle looked at me. Going to the party down there? I don't think so. I think my mates are alright, I said. I don't mind if you stay here. This office is dedicated to medics, son. Sounds nice. Thank you. As I stayed in Nurse Annabelle's office, she told me about her life after I told her about mine. She said that she should have rescued me and would raise me as her own. Her trainer originally wanted to start a shelter for the young fire types, but feared she could be in trouble for being soft on the enemy. Instead, she agreed to assist in an institution to protect all trainers until they were old enough to go to war. Sadly, no Pokemon are allowed. Annabelle, without a trainer or a family, wandered the forest until she got captured by General Alcatraz's trainer. Alcatraz asked Annabelle if she had any experience with war or battle. She did not, but she had experience with helping injured ones by giving them milk she made. Alcatraz and her trainer allowed Annabelle to give her milk to the wounded soldiers. Seeing its incredible power heal them all faster, they accepted her as the medic. Months ago, a trainer caught a baby Eevee out on the battlefield and asked his partners if they were missing an Eevee. No one had an Eevee as their Pokemon, and said trainer could not leave them to die outside. Finally, Nurse Annabelle said she wants to take care of him. Since then, the baby Eevee has been in good health. He has been educated, nurtured, and is growing into an active, playful Eevee. Annabelle treats him like he was her son, and he treats not just Annabelle, but everyone like they are his parents. Nurse Annabelle says by the end of the war, she hopes to become an assistant to a nurse, either at a school or a Pokemon Center. In the meantime, she wants to take care of the little Eevee until he evolves. Knowing that he's getting lots of affection, I would guess he would become a Sylveon soon. Annabelle agrees. Because of that, she names the Eevee Sylvester. When the celebration of the success of General Alcatraz's plan was over, the soldiers went back to their rooms. Wyatt and the generals discussed the next strategy for tomorrow, and it does not involve the water team. The next battle will involve Alcatraz's fire team. Alcatraz's team is made up of grass types, but also various types of Pokemon and trainers who own them. The fire team is a successful unit. Because of the enemy of this war is all fire types, the other fire type Pokemon agree to go to war to fight against their own. And the best way to do that is espionage. Once a fire type Pokemon sneaks into the enemy lines, causing a successful infiltration, the enemies won't know which of their members to trust. Since they formed, the fire team was yearning to begin their operation. My team and I have returned to our room, and they were all having a good time and were determined to fight again, just like the first time I met them. Relaxing on my bed, I decided to read the letter Hunter wrote to me, the note that pushed General Johnson to suicide. Hello, Junior. This is Hunter Suta from home. We heard from our trainer that you were shot and currently being treated. Chase was crying. He said he doesn't want you to die. The rest of us are praying. As a fire type myself, I am sick seeing how dominant they are and determined to win the war. So I ask for one request. Let me be a part of your team. I know, I'm a Charmeleon, and your team is made up of water-type Pokemon, but I don't want you to lose this war on your second day. I can help any way I can. Please write back. Love, Hunter, Chase Suta, and everyone else at home. Hunter wanted to join the war, but I was very reluctant. I didn't want him to die. Chase would be heartbroken, knowing he would be the only living member of his family. But hearing about the fire team and how determined he was when I first met him, I think Hunter should fight on our side. Wyatt, Hunter has to come here, I told him. I know he's a brave and hopeful Charmeleon. He never gives up. He never gave up on Chase, and he was making the best of the whole fire-type segregation. You sure? Wyatt asked. I nodded. Okay then. I'll talk to General Alcatraz. When Wyatt left the room, I looked at the other soldiers again and sighed. Gee, 3 days into this, and it's already gotten interesting, I said. Well, the important thing is, we're gonna do it, Charlie said. By the way, you sure you want Hunter in this war? Asked Eli. How would his brother feel if he, well... Hunter's not afraid, I said. And he doesn't want his brother to be either. I met him when my trainer found them at the store he used to work at. First, I didn't want them both inside after what happened to my first trainer. Seeing them both desperate and unable to make the best of this abuse made me feel guilty. Everyone was looking at me with concern. I think everybody knows that I feel scared. It's okay, Junior, Charlie said. Yeah, do what you gotta do, Eli replied. Over the past few days, General Alcatraz did not order the water team to fight in any other battle. In fact, since their victory, once we arrived at the new home, there has been no battle declared by the fire team. Still, there was no sign of surrender either. General Alcatraz says that fire type's leader is mentally deteriorating. White also told me that my current trainer is coming along with Hunter. Finally, I get to see my trainer. When they arrived, my team gave Hunter and our trainer a warm welcome. Our trainer got along with them very well. It was almost like these Pokemon were his. Hunter wanted to talk to me in private. "How are you holding up?" he asked me. "I'm doing okay," I said. He looked at me doubtfully. "Okay, I'm scared and confused. What's going on?" I told Hunter everything that had happened after my injury. After he wrote back, General Johnson was shocked at the fact I was friends with Hunter and Chase. He shot himself in the head, leaving Neptune and White in charge as generals. Marshall threatened to kill me when he knew I wanted to protect the fire types, but killed himself after having no supporters. Neptune was also killed in the battle later that day, but thankfully Wyatt called General Alcatraz. I still had questions about Marshall, General Alcatraz, and Hunter. "Hunter, I know that was a lot to take in, but are you sure you can handle this?" I asked him. "I've been reading about this war in the newspapers," he said. "Saw it on TV too. I just want you to be safe. Thought if that bullet to the leg had killed you, the fire types would have won this war." Thought about what Hunter said. If I died, what would happen to the fire team? Would they be strong enough with General Johnson, Neptune, and Marshall still alive? What about the public image of the fire-type Pokemon if they had won the war? I don't want my species to be viewed as some villain anymore. "I don't either," I said. "Hunter, I'm glad you both are here." I hugged him tightly. "I missed you so much." I admitted to Hunter that I was always afraid of this war. Witnessing Kenny, Marshall, and Neptune's death was too much for me. When I got shot in the knee, I kept thinking about Chase and Hunter. I refused to bring this to Wyatt, Alcatraz, or anyone else I was close to in this war. After venting to Hunter, he patted my back and smiled. "It's okay, Junior," he said. "War can be stressful and scary, but look on the bright side. You have a family who supports you. To me, I think it's okay if soldiers feel ashamed. Don't be afraid to cry now." This specific war has changed to the point where I no longer knew the purpose. A self-absorbed grown man believed there was one Pokemon type that was on the top tier. Proving his ideology, he starts fighting unfairly and murdering the trainers he challenges, or had challenged him. Now, this issue has grown into a civil war. This megalomaniac had poisoned the minds of innocent young adults and their Pokemon. When you go to war, you do not expect any kindness from anyone besides a civilian. Not many tears shed for the fallen soldiers, and no horseplay in the foxhole. You would expect that all soldiers fight for bravery, honor, and be so determined they would be unfazed by the effects of war. This war is different. General Johnson, Neptune, and Marshall are all the type of people you would expect to see when going to war. Diana, Frederick, Thomas, Charlie, Eli, Normie, and Hunter are like the expected soldiers. Thomas, Frederick, and Diana may look like they know what they're fighting for, but unlike me, they would also think about the purpose of the war. The new soldiers, nurses, and even General Alcatraz are very kind. I was so skeptical about this sudden change of shelter. After venting to Hunter, I thanked him for his advice and relaxed onto my bed. White later told me that Alcatraz would be sending him to the fire team to cause some infiltration. I prayed that Hunter would know what he must do, and hoped that he would live. The fire team was flown miles away from the enemy headquarters and split up to make their way indoors. Some of the Pokemon had successfully killed off the security and took their places as imposters. Hunter partnered up with the Torracat to sneak into the base. "How are we gonna take down their leader?" asked the Torracat. "Watch and learn," Hunter replied, holding a small bottle of poison. The Charmeleon Torracat sneaked their way into the base's kitchen, where inside is an Arcanine and a Delphox, sleeping. They stabbed them both while they died instantly in their sleep. Then, they came across a lunch prepared for the general. Before they could do anything, there was a knock on the door. "What's the holdup?" asked an Incineroar. "Shh," Hunter said, pointing at the sleeping duo. "Oh, sorry. You can handle giving the general his lunch while they snooze on the job?" "Yes, sir. And if you have any ideas for strategy, let him know." "Will do." The Incineroar and Charmeleon saluted each other, while the Torracat saluted with astonishment. When the Incineroar left, the Charmeleon dripped poison into the drink. "How did you know?" the Torracat stuttered. "I guess it was just luck," Hunter chuckled. "Seriously, sometimes improvisation is the key to being a spy." Hunter and the Torcat find the Fire-type General's room, where he struggles to come up with a strategy. Rubbing his temples, he does not bat an eye to the pair. "Here's your water, sir," Hunter says. The General sighed. "Do you two have any plans to stop those bastards?" "No, sir. It seems that Grass-type's plan is more clever than we thought. I want that shiny chestnut dead, now!" He slammed the table with his fist. "I'm sorry. It's just that there's no other delinquent I want dead than that Squirtle I thought I ordered that retarded Charizard to kill." Hunter gasped. "What do you mean, sir? I thought for sure that—" The Torcat was interrupted by the General. "The War Turtle was nice enough to welcome them in a comic book store," the General said, finally sipping the poison drink. "And being friends with them? Disgusting." The General sat back down on his chair and groaned. "Even if that War Turtle wasn't the Squirtle that I ordered him to kill, I—" He slowly stopped speaking as he violently jittered. "Sir?" The General collapsed in his chair, trying to breathe. His body still shook, and he was looking up at the ceiling. His heart was failing, but he was trying to fight it. The General was too weak to fight back, and he finally succumbed to the choking. The Charmeleon and Torcat smiled, seeing his lifeless body on the chair. The trainer who started this was no more. "Alright, who's next?" asked the Torcat. "That's it," said Hunter. "Clearly this General was so self-centered, he didn't do exactly what Alcatraz did. Assign a substitute. Come on, let's go." Hunter and the Torcat set the room ablaze and jumped out of the window, signaling their team's departure. Finally, spies had done the same and purposefully set fire to anything inside or outside headquarters. They made their way to the helicopter and returned to their base. They watched as the building quickly burst into flames. We all cheered for the fire team's successful assassination. Hunter told me that the General's death was strangely satisfying. I would feel the same way, knowing he was planning to kill me. However, Alcatraz and Wyatt told us that the enemy is declaring a final battle at their base. They expect one team to win. Heading back to our room, we partied one last time, but got together to wish each other good luck. If we die, we will at least die with honor at the end of the war. "This is it, you guys. Our last battle," Wyatt said. "You guys got anything you want to say? To loved ones or anything?" Nobody replied. "Okay, I'll start. I want my wife to know that everything will be okay if I don't come back. Once the war is over, she'll be free from that enclosed shelter. I hope that she'll never forget me." "My turn," Diana said. "When my trainer asked Johnson to put me in the team, he just laughed. He said mermaids are useless at war. However, my training was enough to convince him. By the time I go out on that battlefield and come home either dead or alive, I want all the girls to know my story." We looked at Frederick. "I have never been afraid to fight," he said. "Once this war was getting popular, I immediately agreed to fight in this war. My only regret is mistaking the purpose of this war. I hope that by the end of this war, those poor fire types will be okay." Then we turned to Thomas. "When I was younger, I thought that fighting my opposite type was fun. I would always easily win the battles I would get into. This war is making me feel nostalgic, but also guilty. But without battling, I wouldn't have been brave to enter this war. I'm very thankful for my trainer." Eli and Charlie did not have much to say. I could tell they were afraid. They want to win, but they do not want us to die. "I love you all," Hero said. "Let's win it for Hunter and all the fire types at home." Finally, we all went to our beds and prepared for the battle in the morning. Though my trainer and Hunter are here, I at least want to write to others, till I saw my trainer write to them. It read, "Battle in the morning. Pray for us. Love, W.T." By morning, we were all sent to the enemy base. I could not believe my eyes when I realized where we were heading. It was the same battlefield we had left. Suddenly, the images of Marshall are coming back. We landed near the foxhole, and the soldiers remembered the events. Will we win this battle? As always, I stay near the trench and watch my teammates fight. More Pokemon came from other helicopters from General Alcatraz's base. It seemed that we were overwhelming the enemy. As I watched the battle, I could not find any other fire type fighting back. The trainers and their Pokemon worked together, gunning down the enemies and putting out all the flames. War has never looked so beautiful. Suddenly I came across Hero, who did nothing but stand on the battlefield twitching. I ran out, minding the bullets and shrapnel, to carry the Sopple back to the foxhole. Hero was still staring into space, not noticing I was right in front of him. I tried to get him to communicate. "Hero? Hero Ame?" I said. "Do you hear me? It's me, Juno Bartholomew." He didn't respond. "Hero, drink this, please." I gave him Nurse Annabelle's canteen. He wouldn't drink it. While I was trying to get Hero back from this catatonic state, I heard another chopper arrive. A familiar voice was calling my name. Junior, there you are, Nurse Hannibal came back. What happened? I think Hero's paralyzed, I said. I don't know, he won't do anything. I think that's shell shock, she said. That's really bad. He can't walk, talk, or do anything. Well, what do we do? I'll handle it. Take this canteen to an injured soldier right now. I ran out of the trench, and another helicopter landed. More water-type Pokemon and their trainers were fighting back. I ran farther to the flaming enemy base, where I could see my team still fighting the enemies. No one, as of now, was injured. I saw some water types putting out the flames of the building, to see if there were any survivors. Water entered the same story of the building and flooded the room. From the distant gunshots and explosions, I could hear the building creaking. The groaning from the building grew louder, as I was trying to order everyone to stop, but the flooded room collapsed. Water spewed out from the lower windows and flushed the fire types away. The gunfire died down. I got up from the muddy fields, coughing, and then threw up. The water pushed my glasses off, and all I could see was a watery blur. I heard others calling my name, but I could not tell who they were. As I moved closer, it was everyone. Charlie, Thomas, Frederick, Diana, Eli, and Wyatt. They were all around a weakened Hunter. Something's wrong with Hunter, Eli said. Need help taking him back to the foxhole? Asked Diana. I looked at the direction of the foxhole, then back to everyone. Nah, I'll work on it here, I said. You guys go fight if possible. And find my glasses too. But everyone but Wyatt left me alone with Hunter. The flame on his tail was going out. I tried to find my canteen, but I could not find it. Junior, Hunter slowly said. Damn it, man. I'm sorry. It's okay. Don't worry. At least I confused the hell out of him, right? He weakly laughed. Hunter, I'm so sorry I brought you into this war. Hey, it's okay. If anything, you should look for a trainer. I don't think I'll make it, but please tell Chase I still love him. Hunter, this can't be. Chase needs. Junior, I will always be with Chase. Remember that. Before I said anything, the flame went out. Hunter smiled before he passed away. I hugged his body, crying. Wyatt was patting my back, shedding tears as well. Hey, Junior, I found your... Charlie paused to see me crying, holding Hunter's body. Hunter? I think we should give him space, Wyatt said to him. Head back to the trench. I walked back to the trench, holding Hunter's body. The soldiers looked at me as all of the gunfire stopped. A few of the soldiers dropped their weapons and saluted as I walked by. I was still crying, but I focused on where I was heading. Finally made it to the trench. He was still in shell shock. I said to Nurse Annabelle, I was too late. After the battle, Wyatt radioed General Alcatraz. Alcatraz, this is Aqueous, he said. How is it? Any more troops needed? No, sir. How's your team? We have lost Hunter Suta, and there's no sign of Hero. He was on the verge of tears. Oh no. I'm sorry. Anyone else? Yes. It was your trainer, sir. General Alcatraz didn't respond. Sir? Don't worry, he finally said. I'll be there soon. Just make sure everyone stays away from the enemy base. Chester? That is an order. Yes, sir. Wyatt ordered everyone to stay away from the building and return near the foxhole to prepare our dismissal. However, his team was in the building. Guys, what are you doing here? We need to get out of here immediately, he said. But Wyatt, we found someone who's got a story to tell, Charlie said. Eli, Charlie, and Thomas were all tightly holding a Charizard. He was whimpering, terribly injured, and had his wings ripped off. I started this war, he cried, and I'm sorry. Just let me go, please. Wait just a minute, Buster. You got one person left to talk to, Eli said. Just head to the foxhole, you guys, Wyatt said. Can we take this guy? Asked Thomas. I don't care, just leave the building. The water team was struggling to carry the Charizard who kept fighting back. As they made it close to the foxhole, the helicopter did not land. It flew back up and quickly towards the enemy base. The building had been engulfed in flames once again. Debris of the helicopter had disintegrated as they flew out of the building. Everyone watched in horror, realizing exactly whose helicopter that was. Chester? Wyatt tried radioing him, but there was no response. Please don't tell us that was our ride, Eli said. No, don't worry. Someone else will come by, Wyatt whimpered. I hope. The base has a wide gap in front of the building, and the smoke was pouring out into the cloudy sky. If that did not kill all of the fire types, what will? For a moment, Wyatt looked at the flaming base. The image of General Chester Alcatraz disintegrating into ash with the rest of the debris was fresh in his mind. It was enough to break him. At least the war had finally ended. My friend said they would return with a big surprise before we celebrate. I was waiting in the trench for my team to arrive. Suddenly, I hear their voices yelling at someone else. When I looked around, it was Charlie, Eli, and Thomas, all forcingly holding a Charizard. Thomas was holding his neck with his two arms. Charlie supported his belly, and Eli held on to his legs. Charizard had no wings and got bitten in the neck. I knew whose teeth sunk in. Charlie. The flame on his tail was beginning to go out. Guys? What are you? I started to say. We got the guy! Eli said while grunting. Who? Then the Charizard began to speak. You remember Juno Bartholomew? Wait a minute, I said. I was the one who burned him alive. My trainer who I helped is dead, he continued. He's the last fire type alive, Thomas said. It ain't over till the fat lizard dies, Charlie said. Eli laughed while I looked at the Charizard. I promised Juno I would avenge him, but over the years I did not think it was worth it. Now that I see his killer in front of me, I'm speechless. Junior, you should try this, Eli said, passing a knife from a fallen soldier. I picked it up and Charlie gasped. Oh my, yes, do it! Do that thing! He shouted with excitement. The Charizard was screaming in fear. No, please! Listen, I know what I did was wrong, I'm sorry, he whined. If there's anything I could do to make it up. Junior, are you gonna believe him? Asked Eli. He's killed so many people, including your trainer, yelled Charlie. Guys, I finally said. I made a decision. The Charizard shivered. What are you gonna do? He asked. All you gotta do is die, you heartless bastard. No, please, I stabbed the Charizard. I looked at him, and he was crying silently. I heard him mumble the words, be brave, stay strong, repeatedly. Charlie and Eli chuckled as I shoved them both. Finally, from the Charizard, I hear him breathlessly moan, everything will be okay. Stay strong. With a final exhale, I took the knife out of his body. The trio dropped the giant lizard. I looked at his tail. All I could see was steam. The flame is no more. The Charizard is dead. Good job, Junior! Up high! Charlie shouted. I grabbed his wrist. Please! I shouted. He gasped as I gently pushed his arm down. I'm not in the mood. Oh, crap, dude. We were turning into Marshall, Eli said. Charlie's jaw dropped. Oh no! Junior! We're sorry for acting like that. The Charizard confessed that he killed your trainer, and we thought it would stop. Charlie looked at me with tears in his eyes. I was crying too. Eli and Thomas looked at us with guilt, and I could tell that it was consuming Charlie. Just share the news to Wyatt. I'll stay here for a while, I finally said. Thomas, Eli, and Charlie all left me alone with the flightless Charizard. I rubbed his head as his body bled on the ground. I've never seen a Charizard this desperate for forgiveness. His plea sounded like his trainer forced him to do this. If I had let him go, what would he do? He couldn't fly and was severely injured. He would never live this down if I spared him. Before Wyatt arrived with the seed bombers, I took the Charizard's body to a nearby river. I fixed his position to have his claws on his lower belly as he was floating. I said, Fallen soldier, I salute you. His body floated away, still in the position I left him in. I stood up, saluting until I couldn't see his body anymore. Before walking back to our foxhole, I looked at the knife I used. I finally said, be good to Juno. I pushed the knife into the ground. The seed bombers arrived to blow up the hideout the fire team was hiding in. They whooped and cheered as the fireball rose from the sky, shooting debris everywhere. We all took pictures in front of the remains. I could tell that Eli was faking a smile. Charlie wanted to cry, and I was mourning that Charizard. I hated him, but I think he had suffered enough. Once we all returned to the base, we partied one last time in honor of our victory and General Alcatraz's strategy. I could not stop thinking about Hunter or that Charizard I killed. It was hard to feel bad for him since he killed so many innocent people on purpose. Was it his fault? Was he forced to kill? The worst part is how Chase is going to react when he hears the news. His only brother, the guardian he has always had, is gone. I packed up my belongings and relaxed on the bed one last time. I did not care about what snacks there were, what games they were playing, or anything. I was ready to go home. I would march back with my trainer if I had to. While I stare at the other bunkers, I could picture Hunter in one of them, reading a comic book. He looked at me and waved with a smile. I waved back, even though there was nothing there. I fell asleep with tears falling on my pillow. Junior? You alright? Asked Wyatt. I woke up, startled from his pat. What? Who's... I realized it was Wyatt. How long has it been? About 2 hours? Junior, you were missing out, yelled Charlie. So many fun games, delicious snacks, some cool people. Yeah, I feel kind of bad for you, man, Eli said. But hey, we saved you a cupcake. I haven't seen you eat in a while after the battles, Junior, Diana said. You're worrying us just a bit, Fred replied. Is it the war that's making you feel this way? It was true I was not eating most of the time. It had nothing to do with the gore, but my guilt about my behavior during the war's existence. I was sometimes rude to Hamilton, my trainer's pig knight. However, he was openly afraid of this war. He did not want to be abandoned or killed. Then there was Charlie. I made him cry after our first battle because Kenny died due to his and Charlie's negligence of this war. After apologizing to Charlie, I realized that he, Eli, and Kenny were all far from inattentive. As for Marshall, I wanted to negotiate with him, but he ended his life thinking his team betrayed him. I am no therapist, but the least I could have done was help him relieve stress, even though we had different perspectives of the war. When I finally told them all why I feel down, they hugged me. Hey man, we're really sorry we did that, Eli said. We were just... Jeez, I hate myself for doing that. Hunter will be okay, said Thomas. Yeah, he's with Kenny now. And they're watching over us, Charlie said with joy. Come on, you guys, let's go home. Charlie gave me a cupcake from the celebration. After eating it, I still thought about Hunter and General Alcatraz. To celebrate a victory at the end of the war without both of them did not feel right. But I take it Alcatraz would have wanted this. He knew war was scary, and he did not want the soldiers to feel too afraid. He treated us like we were one big happy family. The soldiers paid tribute to our fallen general and his trainer, and I missed it all. My trainer and I finally returned home after a grueling war. I could not help but cry over what I saw. Kenny's death, Hunter's death, General Alcatraz's suicide, and that Charizard. Now coming home from this war, everyone will ask me for a story, but I will have to tell Chase the bad news. Once I entered the door, they all shouted, "Welcome home!" "Oh, thank goodness you're okay," Diego said. "How do you mean?" "How's the knee?" "Great to have you back," Ethan said to me. Can I finally go outside?" asked Hamilton. Guys, give him space," Petey said.
Junior!
Shouted Chase. Chase was holding a blue cape. On the bottom it said, "To our superhero, Junior, from Chase and Hunter Suta." "Wow, it's beautiful," I said.
You like it? Hunter and I made it.
They said. "I love it, Chase." I hugged the Pudgy Charmander.
Hey, where is Hunter?
"Chase, we lost Hunter." I started to cry.
Huh?
"I'm sorry, Chase, but he's dead." Everyone else was shocked to hear the news. Even Petey, the Pancham who bullied a majority of us, was on the verge of tears. Chase began to whimper. I hugged him. All the trainers and their Pokemon who fought in the Firewater Civil War were invited to the Grand Memorial. My trainer took the rest of his Pokemon, even though it was only me and Hunter who fought. We arrived at the site where it all ended. The Fire-type space from the final battle was now in ruins, and the battlefield is a cemetery for the fallen. The trench is a shrine for General Alcatraz. It is yet another cloudy day, and soon it will rain. Everyone who arrived was dressed in colored suits, resembling the Pokemon type of their soldiers. It was all mostly blue and green. There was no sign of red or orange. Pokemon rangers, gym leaders, professors, people from all regions were here making speeches about the Civil War and honoring those who fought. Finally, my trainer received an award for being the youngest soldier at the war. He gave a speech, but also eulogized the soldiers, especially Hunter. They allowed me to speak as well, though all the trainers could hear War Turtle, but this was for my friends. I thank everyone for coming here and for the condolences from everybody. I know that even though they are gone, General Neptune, Johnson, and Alcatraz are all proud of everyone who gave their lives and stopped the Civil War. They may not be here to congratulate these men and women, but they are saluting the fallen. I did not get to know many faces, but I do know their stories. As a medic, I knew I was capable of treating a physically wounded soldier. However, this war has taught me how to heal the emotionally wounded. General Chester Alcatraz knew war was scary, but he did not want us all to be afraid. The soldiers the soldiers I know are not afraid to shed a tear and are brave enough to keep fighting no matter what. When the water team lost Kenneth Walter, I could not do much but say that Kenny was one hell of a supporter. He loved to laugh and play ward games with everyone else. When he passed, one soldier, and I will not say who, was devastated. I told him and all the others to stay strong. I suppose you know the story of my trainer taking care of two helpless fire-type Pokemon, Hunter Suta and his little brother Chase. They are the reasons why I wanted to go to war. Hunter wanted to fight on my team, even though he was the opposite type. Once he joined, the enemy was getting confused. When we lost Hunter, he did not seem to be afraid to leave. He said to me, I am always with Chase. After this war, I know now that Hunter is looking down at us and is with Chase and everyone else. The audience applauded me, and I walked past Hunter's casket and patted it. A trumpeter played taps while we watched the coffins get carried to the field. The soldiers were saluting, and I saw Chase salute too, before he cried. When they dismissed us, I hugged Chase again, but he was in grief. It'll be okay, I said to him.
No, it won't. Let me go.
He shouted. But Chase! He ran away. Hey, stop!
No, get away from me.
He kept running. I followed him to the woods. I had to get him out so that he could not start a wildfire. Unfortunately, I was losing him. I could not find Chase. I called his name, but he would not come back. Then people were calling my name. I sighed and returned to the memorial. I met the water team one last time before we all went home. I hugged Eli and Charlie because, out of everyone, they needed the most comfort. Hey, how are you, Junior? Asked Thomas. Been doing fine. Just recovering a little, I said. Chase just ran away. Oh, poor baby, Diana whimpered. Hey, Wyatt said, putting a paw on my shoulder. Hunter's with him. He'll be okay. I turned around, then back at my friends. You're right, I said. So, you guys want to look at General Alcatraz's memorial? Asked Fred. It's done already? Asked Eli. It's been almost 4 days since the war ended. I think we should see it for old time's sake, Charlie replied. We all went to our old foxhole, which looked noticeably different, but still recognizable. Our beds were removed, except for mine. It was titled, The Bed of the Wounded Medic. Oh hey, look at that, I said. Thanks for sticking with me, guys. Anything, Charlie said. Lucky, Eli grumbled jokingly. I looked over at Eli's bed and smirked. Don't worry, Eli, you got a better one, I said. Eli spat out a picture of him with the burn from the flare. His mattress is titled Bed of the Burning Buzel. Ah, screw you, man, he said as we laughed. We kept walking until we could see the area where Marshall and General Johnson died. The pictures of the generals were on the walls. Chester Alcatraz was on the top. Wyatt von Aqueous was on the right of the photo. And below them were Neptune, Poseidon, Marcus, and Elijah Johnson. Was General Johnson your trainer, Eli? Asked Charlie. Eli laughed. No, my name is Elias, he said. Hey Wyatt, did you know that Neptune was also called Poseidon? Honestly, no, Wyatt said, chuckling. Nearby is a case protecting the pistol Marshall and General Johnson used to commit suicide. It was painful to look at since the trench looks like how it was before Alcatraz rescued us, despite its tourist archival change. I looked over to the bench where Hero sat, witnessing Marshall's death, but over there is a picture of him with shell shock. Nurse Annabelle is holding onto his lap, worried. So that's what happened to Hero, Thomas said. Where did he go? I asked. He actually went to a Pokemon Center to recover from his shell shock, Eli responded. There's nothing they could do, so he actually had to go through rehabilitation. He's in an insane asylum? Charlie asked with fear. No, don't worry, Diana responded. Hero's gonna be okay. The last thing we looked at was the group photo of the remaining army of Alcatraz's unit, along with us. It looked like the Seed Bombers were the only group smiling, unfazed by what we experienced. No one said a word. We all left the trench to return to our trainers. We said one last goodbye, but Charlie wanted to talk to me first. Hey, Junior? I meant to give this back to you, he said, holding the notebook he read after I got shot in the knee. I helped a lot during the final battle. It would have been easier if Nurse Annabelle came with us. Charlie, I think you should keep it, I told him. Really? Yeah, I don't think I'm able to do any medic stuff after the war. But I think I know someone else who is. Also, something to remember me by. Charlie looked at me and smiled. Thank you. Have a good one, Junior, he said. I hugged him again. I saw some rays come from the cloud, pointing out where Chase left, and a rainbow arching around the field. After the Fire Water Civil War, everyone in town agreed that the Fire-type Pokemon needed some help re-entering society. New trainers adopted the Fire-types who were seeking shelter. People began to notice that Pokemon were suddenly thinking like humans. Soon they were free to do anything. Pokemon can even go to school. I'm in my early 30s now and working as a police officer. I still think about Chase. I know wherever he is, Hunter will always be his guardian angel. The effects of war have slowly faded away, but I always remember everything. It does not distract me from my job as a cop. I have evolved into a Blastoise and grown out of Chase's cape. I keep it safe in my home. I live in a small house with Petey, Diego, and a shiny Zangoose named Amadeus. Our trainer founded him after the war. Amadeus is unfortunately fluent in Japanese, so Petey and I are teaching him English. I honestly think Diego and Petey are slowly having feelings for each other. Fred and Diana are now married and living an enjoyable post-war life in Alola. They send me and everyone else postcards almost every year. Thomas evolved into a Greninja, and he now teaches martial arts. His son is a fast learner, and he always wins tournaments. Thomas Jr., being a small Froakie, is unbelievably strong. Hero successfully recovered from shell shock and is now an Intellion, helping detectives. I have not heard much from him, but I hope he's having a good time. Charlie did not evolve, and he teaches a health class at a middle school. His younger sister is an explorer, but Charlie fears for her safety. About a year after the end of the war, Charlie gave me some bad news. Eli had drowned himself in a lake, leaving a note attached to a tree. In the letter, he stated his family did not give him much respect after the war. He could not handle the guilt. Eli seemed happy when I last saw him when we visited our old foxhole, but the group photo must have reminded him of a mistake. We all hated Marshall for being against fire types and wanting to kill off their population, but Eli helped to recreate Marshall's bloodthirsty drawings. I could tell Eli would not want to kill anyone, even after what we did to that Charizard. He cursed his parents for not believing every word from his mouth, and promised the other soldiers he would tell Kenny and Hunter hi, even though he could not find us. There was no funeral for Eli, but Charlie paid his respects at the foxhole again. He snuck into the trench at night and put a picture of him and Eli where his bed was. Charlie rewrote Eli's suicide note and taped it on the wall. The copy had tears, and on the bottom, Charlie wrote, "I miss you, Elias." Charlie could not stop crying when he told me the news. I hung out with him so he could calm down. I sent flowers to his family, only to find his parents detained. I immediately wanted to find Eli's parents once I got hired in the police force. I finally met them for only a short time. I told them, I am a veteran of the Fire Water Civil War. I want to say I'm sorry for your loss. They told me not to worry about Eli. They both were taken out of their cell into the electric chair. I could hear them trying to fight back when I headed out of the cells. I was picturing them crying, persuading everyone not to kill them. I can imagine them screaming, "I didn't do anything!" I still wonder why Eli's parents treated him like that after the war. Wyatt Von Aqueous finally rejoined the Flareon he met before the war. And now, they were free to do anything. They moved out of this town and into a new city. To this day, I do not know what they are doing. It seemed that the effects of war had escaped their souls. I hope Wyatt remembers everyone else at least. War has changed us all. At first, we were all scared. Wyatt knew how hard it was to be a general, and he had to hide his secret admiration for the enemy. Charlie was fearsome and relied on his friends, begging them not to die. They drafted Hero, and he was desperate to go home. Diana, being the first known female at war, is combative and an inspiration to other women. Fred knew what happened at war and did not seem to be too horrified. Thomas was like Fred, but he also did not seem to listen to General Johnson or Neptune at first. Thomas had his own strategies and used them to his advantage. Wyatt found happiness. Charlie found a new skill. Here I found confidence, Fred and Diana found love, and Thomas found a family. And like Hunter, Kenny, and Eli, everyone, including myself, have found freedom. Thank you for reading my story. Love from Juno Bartholomew Jr., Charles Gideon Pierce, Hiro Ame, Thomas Pierre, Elias Benedict, Y. Von Aqueous, Hunter and Chase Suta. Stay strong.